Israel-Hamas War hits 100-day mark. North Korea no longer pursues reconciliation with South. Columns of tractors gather in Berlin. Prison staff held hostage by inmates in Ecuador freed. Brazil's Rio de Janeiro state confronts flood damage. Pope Francis authorizes blessings for same-sex couples.
Hello, I'm Wade Lee. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It is Wednesday, January 17th, and here are your top stories. The conflict between Israel and Hamas entered its 100th day on Sunday, emerging as the longest and deadliest war since Israel's establishment in 1948. This relentless battle has extracted a heavy toll, particularly on Palestinians in Gaza. Nearly 2 million displaced, thousands of homes destroyed, and nearly 24,000 dead, 10,000 of them children. Since the outbreak of war on October 7th, when the militant group Hamas broke into southern Israel and killed 1,200 people and kidnapped some 250 more, the toll of Israel's response on Gaza, which is governed by Hamas, has been catastrophic for the territory.
It is now 100 days since the Hamas attack of October the 7th, the deadliest day since Israel's founding.
The United Nations humanitarian chief Martin Griffiths said Friday, "What we have seen since the 7th of October is a stain on our collective conscience. Unless we act, it will become an indelible mark on our humanity. People will continue to suffer and die from the rockets, the bombs, the missiles and the bullets, and in increasing numbers from starvation, disease and exposure. The scale of destruction is beyond a scale ever seen in Gaza." According to an analysis of satellite imagery by researchers at Oregon State University and the City University of New York, as many as 55.9% of all buildings in the Gaza Strip have been damaged or destroyed by Israel's bombardment, or up to 160,800 buildings.
State media said Tuesday, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said his country would no longer pursue reconciliation with South Korea and called for rewriting the North's constitution to eliminate the idea of shared statehood between the war-divided countries. The historic step to discard a decades-long pursuit of unification, which was based on a sense of national homogeneity shared by both Koreas, come amid heightened tension where the pace of both Kim's weapons development and the South's military exercises with the United States have intensified in a tit-for-tat. North Korea also abolished the key government agency that has been tasked with managing relations with South Korea in a decision made during a meeting of the country's rubber-stamp parliament on Monday.
No longer shared kin or blood, but two hostile nations at war. That's how leader Kim Jong-un now describes North Korea's view of South Korea.
The Supreme People's Assembly said the two Koreas are locked in an acute confrontation and that it would be a serious mistake for the North to regard the South as a partner in diplomacy. Kim blamed South Korea and the United States for raising tensions in the region, citing their expanded joint military exercises, deployments of U.S. strategic military assets, and their trilateral security cooperation with Japan as turning the Korean peninsula into a dangerous war risk zone. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol said during a cabinet meeting in Seoul that Kim's comments show the anti-national and anti-historical nature of the government in Pyongyang. Yoon said the South was maintaining firm defense readiness and would punish the North multiple times hard if it provokes it.
Farmers clogged Berlin's streets with their tractors on Monday, honking their horns in protest at a plan to scrape tax breaks on the diesel they use. The climax of the week of protests that has tapped into wider discontent with Germany's government. Columns of tractors rolled into the capital ahead of the demonstration at the landmark Brandenburg Gate. Over the past week, farmers have blocked highway entrances and slowed traffic across Germany with their protests, intent on pushing Chancellor Olaf Scholz's government to abandon the planned cut entirely. They're not satisfied with the concession the government has already made.
On January 4th, it watered down its original plan, saying that a car tax exemption for farming vehicles would be retained and the cuts in the diesel tax breaks would be staggered over 3 years. Finance Minister Christian Lindner was greeted with boos, whistles and chants of "Get lost" as he defended the government's revised plan. He conceded that the original proposal was too much and it was too fast and said the protests were legitimate and peaceful. Farmers' representatives met later Monday with the leaders of all three governing parties' parliamentary groups, who held out the prospect of action on the wider challenges farmers face. But they didn't resolve the disagreement over diesel tax breaks.
All prison guards and administrative employees held hostage by inmates at correctional facilities across Ecuador have now been freed. The prison's agencies, SNAI, did not specify how many people had been freed, but said they were under medical evacuation and it would investigate those responsible for their capture. Earlier on Saturday, it had said 133 guards and 3 administrative employees were still being held after at least 41 were released. Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa welcomed the news and congratulated SNAI, the armed forces, and the National Police for securing the release.
The National Police of Ecuador had earlier said that people had been freed from prisons in Esmeraldas City in northwestern Ecuador as well as Tungurahua Province on Saturday after mediation by the Catholic Church. The agency had also reported an armed confrontation at a prison in the southern region of El Oro between inmates and members of the armed forces and the National Police. SNAI said, one prison guard was killed and another was injured in the facility. The hostage-taking at Ecuador's prisons comes amid a wave of violence sweeping the country that has included explosions and kidnappings of police.
Neighborhood in Brazil's Rio de Janeiro state remained flooded Monday more than a day after territorial rains that killed at least 12 people. The heavy downpour wreaked havoc over the weekend, flooding people's homes, a hospital, the metro line in the city of Rio, and a main freeway section of Avenida Brazil. Some people drowned and were killed in landslides, while at least 3 died after being electrocuted. According to civil servant officials, 18 towns across the state remain at high risk of landslides. The floods were particularly devastating in Rio's north peripheries, some of the metropolitan's poorest areas.
Residents waded through waist-high water Monday to navigate streets in Duque de Caxias. Others climbed on roofs and called for help as helicopters flew overhead. Firefighters were searching for a woman who disappeared after her car fell into the Botas River in Rio's Belford Roxo neighborhood. Around 2,400 military personnel from Rio's Firefighters Corps were mobilized over the weekend and used ambulances, boats, drones, and aircraft to rescue residents and to monitor affected areas. Rio de Janeiro Mayor Eduardo Paes on Sunday declared an emergency and urged people to not force their way through flooded areas and to avoid disrupting rescue and recovery efforts.
Pope Francis has defended his controversial decision to let priests bless same-sex couples, but admitted that solitude is a price you have to pay when you make difficult decisions. Francis doubled down and insisted that the Lord blesses everyone during a Sunday interview with an Italian talk show. But he acknowledged the remarkable opposition his decision has sparked. Africa's bishops have united in a continent-wide refusal to implement the Vatican's declaration, and individual bishops in Eastern Europe, Latin America, and elsewhere have also voiced opposition. Vatican's December 18 declaration restated traditional church teachings that marriage is a lifelong union between a man and a woman.
But it allowed priests to offer spontaneous, non-liturgical blessings to same-sex couples seeking God's grace in their lives, provided such blessings aren't confused with the rites and rituals of a wedding. Pope Francis formally approved letting Catholic priests bless same-sex couples last December, a radical shift in policy that aimed at making the Church more inclusive while maintaining its strict ban on gay marriage. But while the Vatican statement was heralded by some as a step toward breaking down discrimination in the Catholic Church, some LGBTQ+ advocates warned it underscored the Church's idea that gay couples remain inferior to heterosexual partnerships.
The answer for yesterday was A, edge. The cat tried to cling to the edge by its claws. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into the news of North Korea no longer pursues reconciliation with South. Number 1, reconciliation, 和解,和好,修好. It took hours of negotiation to bring about a reconciliation between the two sides. Number 2, homogeneity, 同质同种. We're seeing chefs abandoning homogeneity in favor of innovation. Number 3, abolish, 废除, 废止. I think bullfighting should be abolished. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comments section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's it for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune into Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Wade Lee, your host. I'll see you next time.